The message had traveled across 10,000 star systems. It was old. So old that no one remembered who had sent it first. But every species in the galaxy knew the words. They passed it down from generation to generation. They carved it into stone and metal. They taught it to their children before they taught them anything else. Never attack the humans. Never threaten their worlds. Never harm their young. If you see a human ship, let it pass. If a human asks for help, give it freely. And if you are foolish enough to make them your enemy, pray to whatever gods you believe in. Because nothing else will save you. Commander Drelos of the Valorian Empire read these words on his personal screen. He laughed. The sound was harsh and cold in the quiet of his command bridge. Around him, his officers watched with careful eyes. They knew better than to question their commander. But some of them felt a chill run down their spines. This is what the galaxy fears? Drelos said. He turned to face his crew. His gray skin caught the blue light of the stars outside. His 4 eyes blinked slowly, full of contempt. These humans are nothing. They have a few dozen colony worlds. Their military is small. They spend their time farming and trading and making art. They are soft creatures. Weak creatures. His first officer, a younger Valorian named Keth, stepped forward carefully. Commander, the warning has existed for over 3,000 years. Every species follows it. Even the Graxian horde, who fear nothing, refuse to. The Graxians are cowards. Drelos cut him off. All of them are cowards. The entire galaxy lives in fear of a species that has never fought a real war. Do you know why? Because no one has ever tested them. No one has ever shown them what true power looks like. Keth wanted to argue. He wanted to remind his commander that there were stories. Old stories about what happened when someone ignored the warning. Entire civilizations had disappeared. Not defeated. Not conquered. Disappeared. As if they had never existed at all. But he kept his mouth shut. Drelos was not a commander who accepted disagreement. Today, we change history, Drelos announced. His voice carried across the bridge. Today, the Valorian Empire proves that we bow to no one. Not to the Galactic Council. Not to ancient superstitions. And certainly not to humans. The fleet moved through space like a swarm of metal insects. 300 warships. The pride of the Valorian military. Each one carried enough weapons to burn a small moon to ash. Together, they could destroy anything. Or so Drelos believed. Their target was a human colony world called New Bizon. It was a peaceful place. Green hills and blue oceans and cities that shined white under a yellow sun. 40 million humans lived there. They had farms and schools and hospitals. They had families. They had dreams. They had no idea what was coming. Captain Tejo woke up early that morning. The sun was just starting to rise over the eastern mountains. He stood on the balcony of his small apartment and watched the light spread across the sky. The air smelled like flowers and fresh rain. Somewhere in the distance, birds were singing. He was 32 years old, a captain in the Colonial Defense Force, but New Bizon had never needed much defending. His job mostly involved helping lost hikers and responding to weather emergencies. He had never fired his weapon outside of training. He hoped he never would. His communicator buzzed. He looked at the message and smiled. It was from his sister, Subin. She was a doctor at the Central Hospital. She wanted to have lunch together. "I will be there," he typed back. "Save me some of that soup you make. The good one." He got dressed and headed to the defense headquarters. It was a quiet building in the middle of the capital city. Most of his co-workers were drinking coffee and talking about sports. A normal day. A peaceful day. Then the alarm started. Tejo had never heard that sound before. Not for real. It was the invasion alarm. The sound that meant enemy ships had entered the system. The sound that was supposed to be impossible. He ran to the command center. The main screen showed the orbital scans. His blood went cold. 300 ships. Alien ships. They were already past the outer defense satellites. They were heading straight for the planet. What is this? Someone shouted. Who are they? The answer came from the communication system. A harsh voice speaking in translated Galactic Standard. People of New Bazan, this is Commander Drelos of the Valorian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You will surrender immediately. Any resistance will be met with total destruction. You have 1 hour to respond. Tejo felt the world spin around him. The Valorians. He had heard of them. An aggressive empire on the other side of the galaxy. Powerful, cruel, but they had never threatened human space before. Why now? Why here? The colonial governor appeared on another screen. She was an older woman with gray hair and calm eyes. But Tejo could see the fear behind her calmness. We are attempting to contact Earth, she said. All civilians are ordered to move to the underground shelters. Defense forces will... The screen went dark. The lights flickered. Outside the window, Tejo saw fire falling from the sky. They had not waited for an answer. They had not given them an hour. The Valorians had already started bombing. Su Bin was at the hospital when the first explosion hit. The building shook. Windows shattered. Patients screamed. She grabbed a young nurse and pulled her under a heavy table just as the ceiling cracked. Stay down, she shouted over the noise. Stay down and do not move. More explosions. Closer now. The power went out. Emergency lights came on, painting everything in dim red. Su Bin could hear children crying somewhere. She could hear people calling for help. She was a doctor. She had sworn to save lives. She pushed herself up and started moving through the chaos. There were injured people everywhere. Burns and cuts and broken bones. She did what she could with what she had. Bandages and painkillers and words of comfort. But the bombs kept falling. Through a broken window, she saw the city burning. Beautiful towers that had taken decades to build were now columns of black smoke. The parks where children played were craters. The streets where people walked and laughed were rivers of fire. Her communicator was dead. She did not know if Tejo was alive. She did not know if anyone was alive. In orbit, Commander Drelos watched the destruction with satisfaction. His 4 eyes gleamed with pride. This was power. This was what it meant to be Valorian. The weak fell. The strong survived. It was the natural order of the universe. Commander, Kef said quietly, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. Let me hear it. The voice was human, male, filled with rage and despair. Why? We did nothing to you. We never threatened you. We never harmed you. There are children dying down there. Innocent people. Why are you doing this? Drelos smiled. Because we can. Because we wanted to prove that the warnings were lies. Because your species has been protected by fear for too long. That protection ends today. You have made a terrible mistake, the human voice said. You have no idea what you have done. I know exactly what I have done, Drelos replied. I have shown the galaxy that humans can die just like anyone else. I have proven that you are not special, not protected, not dangerous. There was silence on the other end. Then, very quietly, the human spoke again. We gave you that warning to protect you. Not us, you. We told the galaxy to leave us alone because we knew what would happen if they did not. We knew what we would become, what we would do. Empty threats, Drelos laughed. They are not threats. They are promises. And when Earth hears what you have done here today, when they see the bodies of our children, when they count the dead, You will understand. The whole galaxy will understand. We tried to be peaceful. We tried to be kind. We tried to forget what we are. The transmission cut off. Drello shook his head. Humans were dramatic creatures. That was all. Words and emotions and empty promises. They could not hurt him. They could not touch the Valorian Empire. On the ground, Tejo had reached the hospital. Half of it was destroyed. The other half was filled with the wounded and the dying. He found Subin covered in blood and ash, still working, still trying to save lives. "You are alive," she said. Tears cut clean lines through the dirt on her face. "So are you." He held her for just a moment. One moment of warmth in a world of fire. "What do we do?" She asked. Te-Ho looked out at the burning city. He looked up at the sky where alien ships still circled like hungry birds. He thought about the warning that everyone knew, the warning that these Valorians had ignored. "We survive," he said. "We get as many people as we can, and we find a way off this planet. And then what?" His eyes were hard. His voice was cold. "Then we make them remember why the warning existed." Across the galaxy, the message was already spreading. A human colony had been attacked. Millions were dead or dying. The Valorian Empire had broken the oldest rule. They had done the one thing that no species was ever supposed to do. They had made humanity their enemy. On Earth, in cities and villages and ships and stations, humans heard the news. They watched the footage of New Bizen burning. They saw the bodies. They saw the flames. They saw the Valorian ships in orbit, celebrating their victory. And something woke up inside them. Something old. Something that they had buried long ago when they decided to be peaceful, to be kind, to be better than their ancestors. Something that the galaxy had feared for 3,000 years. Something that the Valorians would soon meet face to face. The warning had been. The news reached Earth in 17 minutes. That was how long it took for the emergency signal to travel through the relay stations that connected human space. 17 minutes. Not enough time to save anyone on New Bizen, but enough time to change everything. Admiral Yuna was eating dinner when her personal communicator screamed. Not the normal sound, the emergency sound. The one she had heard only twice in her 40 years of service. She dropped her chopsticks and grabbed the device. The message was short. Just a few words. But those words stopped her heart. New Bizen under attack. Valorian fleet. Millions dead. Colony burning. She was running before she finished reading. Her home was near the Pacific Command Center. 3 minutes of sprinting through dark streets. Her lungs burned. Her legs ached. But she did not slow down. The command center was already in chaos when she arrived. Officers ran between screens. Voices shouted over each other. Everyone was trying to understand what had happened. What was still happening? "Admiral on deck," someone called out. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at her. She saw fear in their eyes, confusion, anger. They were looking to her for answers, for orders, for hope. Yun, it took a deep breath. She walked to the main screen. The footage from New Bizen played on a loop. Cities burning, ships in orbit, the death count climbing higher every second. "How many survivors?" she asked. "Unknown," an officer replied. "Communication with the surface is sporadic. The Valorians are jamming most frequencies. Is anyone evacuating the population?" Some civilian ships made it off-world before the attack. Maybe a few thousand people. The rest? The officer could not finish the sentence. Yuna closed her eyes. 40 million people. Farmers and doctors and teachers and children. People who had never hurt anyone. People who had chosen to live on a distant world and build something beautiful. Now they were dying. Now they were dead. She thought about the warning. Every human knew it. Every human understood why it existed. Not because humanity was dangerous, but because humanity could become dangerous. Because somewhere deep inside, every human was a capacity for violence that made other species look like children playing with toys. The warning was a promise. A promise that humanity would stay peaceful. A promise that they would not become what they once were. But that promise had conditions. And the most important condition was simple. Do not give us a reason. Where is the Valorian fleet now? Yuna asked. Still in orbit around New Bizon. They appeared to be establishing a permanent presence. They think they won, someone muttered. Yuna turned to face her officers. Her eyes were hard as stone. Her voice was calm as still water. But there was something beneath that calm. Something cold and patient and terrible. Contact Luna Base, she said. Authorization code Omega 7. Tell them to open the vaults. The room went silent. Someone whispered a prayer. Others just stared in disbelief. Luna Base was humanity's oldest secret. Built 300 years ago, when humanity first started exploring the stars. It was buried deep beneath the surface of the moon, hidden from all sensors, unknown to any alien species. Inside those vaults were the ships that humanity had built during the dark times. The times before the warning. The times when humans had fought each other with weapons so terrible that they had nearly destroyed themselves. Those ships had been sleeping for centuries, waiting, hoping. They would never be needed. Now they were needed. On New Bizon, Tejo led a group of survivors through the underground tunnels. There were maybe 200 of them, mostly civilians, some wounded, some carrying children, all of them terrified. Subin walked beside him. She had a medical kit on her back and a child in her arms. The child was maybe 5 years old. She had lost her parents in the bombing. She had not spoken since Subin found her. Where are we going? One of the survivors asked. There is an emergency bunker on the other side of the mountains, Tejo replied. It has communication equipment that might still work. Food and water for several months. Medical supplies. And then what? We just hide until we die? Tejo stopped walking. He turned to face the man who had spoken. The man was older, covered in dust and burns. His eyes were empty. We survive, Tejo said firmly. That is what we do. We survive. And we make sure that the galaxy knows what happened here. We record everything. The attacks, the bodies, the war crimes. We send it everywhere. And then we let Earth decide what happens next. Earth cannot help us. We are too far away. By the time anyone gets here, you do not know what Earth can do, Tejo interrupted. You do not know what humanity is capable of when we are pushed. None of us do. That is the whole point of the warning. Even we forgot what we used to be. He started walking again. The survivors followed. They had no choice. There was nowhere else to go. In orbit, Commander Drelos received reports from his ground forces. They were moving through the ruined cities, capturing survivors for interrogation, looking for anything valuable: technology, resources, information about human defenses. The humans are weak, one of his ground commanders reported. They barely fight back. Most of them just run and hide. This was easier than expected. Drelos smiled. Of course it was easy. The warnings were lies. Humanity was nothing special. Just another soft species that talked about peace because they were too afraid to make war. Continue securing the planet, he ordered. I want full control within 3 days. We will use this world as a forward base for further expansion into human space. Yes, Commander. Kath approached him carefully. The young officer looked troubled. Commander, I am receiving strange readings from the Sol system. Strange how? Energy signatures. Massive energy signatures. Coming from the orbit of their moon. Drellos frowned. What kind of energy signatures? I am not certain. Our sensors have never detected anything like this before. It appears to be ships, many ships. But the power output is impossible. It suggests weapon systems that should not exist. Should not exist according to who? According to any known technology commander. These readings indicate destructive capability far beyond anything in the galaxy. If they are accurate, they are not accurate, Drello snapped. Your sensors are malfunctioning. The humans do not have secret weapons. They do not have hidden fleets. They are farmers and artists. That is all they are. But even as he spoke, Drellos felt something he had not felt in a very long time. A small cold feeling in his chest. A whisper of doubt. He pushed it away. He was Commander Drellos of the Valorian Empire. He had conquered 12 worlds. He had never been defeated. He would not be frightened by sensor glitches and old stories. On Earth, the vaults were opening deep beneath the lunar surface. Massive doors that had not moved in 300 years slowly slid apart. Lights flickered on in chambers that had been dark since before anyone alive was born. Systems that had been sleeping activated one by one, and the ships woke up. They were beautiful in a terrible way, long and sleek and covered in weapons. Their hulls were black as space. Their engines burned with blue fire. They had names that had been forgotten by history, names from wars that humanity had tried to erase. Vengeance, retribution, extinction, apocalypse. 1,000 ships. Each one designed for a single purpose. Not exploration, not defense, not peacekeeping. Destruction. Admiral Yuna stood in the command center of the flagship. It was called the Final Warning. The irony was not lost on her. Fleet status, she said. All ships powered and ready. Weapon systems online. Jump drives charged. Crew transfers complete. The crews had come from everywhere. Active military, reserves, veterans who had been retired for decades. Everyone who had ever worn a human uniform answered the call. They filled the ships in hours. They trained on systems they had only read about in classified files. They prepared for a war that humanity had hoped would never come. The Galactic Council is attempting to contact us, an officer reported. They are demanding to know what is happening. Tell them the truth, Yuna replied. Tell them that the Valorian Empire attacked our people. Tell them that millions of our citizens are dead. Tell them that we gave the galaxy a warning for 3,000 years, and the Valorians chose to ignore it. And then tell them to stay out of our way. This is between us and the Valorians now. Anyone who interferes will be treated as an enemy. The officer went pale. Admiral, that could be seen as a threat against the entire galaxy. It is not a threat. It is information. We are done being peaceful. We are done being kind. We are done hoping that the galaxy will leave us alone. Yuna's voice was ice. The Valorians wanted to see what humans are capable of. Now they will see. And so will everyone else. On New Bizin, Tejo and his group reached the emergency bunker. It was still intact. The communication system still worked. Food and water and medical supplies filled the storage rooms. They were safe. For now, but Tejo did not feel safe. He felt like he was standing at the edge of a cliff, watching something massive approach. Something that would change everything. He turned on the communication system and found the emergency channel. Static at first. Then voices. Human voices. Fleet has launched from Luna Base. 1,000 ships. Repeat, 1,000 ships. They are heading for New Bizin. Subin stood beside him. The child was asleep in her arms. 1,000 ships? We did not have 1,000 military ships. We did not have 1,000 military ships that we knew about, Tejo said quietly. What does that mean? He looked at her. His face was tired, and as the human fleet arrived at New Bizin 3 days after the attack. They came out of hyperspace like ghosts appearing from thin air. One moment, the sky was empty except for Valorian ships. The next moment, 1,000 black vessels hung in the darkness between stars. Commander Drelos was sleeping when the alarms woke him. He ran to the command bridge, still pulling on his uniform. What he saw on the tactical display stopped him cold. That is impossible, he whispered. The human ships were massive. Each one was twice the size of his largest warship. Their weapon systems glowed with energy that his sensors could barely measure. And there were so many of them. A wall of black metal and blue fire that seemed to stretch across the entire sky. Commander, we are being hailed, Keth said. His voice was shaking. Put it through. A human face appeared on the screen. A woman, maybe 60 years old. Short gray hair. Dark eyes that showed no emotion at all. She wore a uniform that Drelos did not recognize. Old symbols. Old designs. From a time before the warning. I am Admiral Yuna of the Human Defense Fleet, she said. You have one chance to surrender. Take it. Drelos tried to laugh. The sound came out wrong. You think you can threaten me? One have 300 ships. I have already conquered your colony. You are outnumbered, and you killed 40 million of our people. Yuna interrupted. Her voice was flat, dead, like she was reading numbers from a report. Men, women, children, you burned their homes. You destroyed their cities. You murdered them while they begged for mercy. They were weak. The weak always fall to the strong. That is the natural order. No. Yuna shook her head slowly. That is not the natural order. That is what you believe because you have never met anything stronger than you. Until now. The screen went dark. Dre Lost turned to his officers. The battle stations. All ships prepared to engage. Commander, Keth said desperately, perhaps we should consider we did not surrender. We are Valorians. We conquer. We win, always. But those ships are just ships. Metal and weapons and engines. They can be destroyed like anything else. He was wrong. The battle lasted 9 minutes. The human ships did not fight like normal warships. They did not form lines or exchange volleys or try to protect each other. They moved like predators, fast and silent and precise. Each one picked a target and destroyed it completely before moving to the next. Their weapons were unlike anything the Pong Galaxy had ever seen. Beams of white light that cut through shields like paper. Missiles that seemed to think for themselves, dodging defenses and finding weak points. Pulses of energy that made Valorian reactors explode from the inside. One by one, the Valorian ships died. Some tried to flee. The human ships were faster. Some tried to surrender. The human ships did not accept dot in 9 minutes. 280 Valorian warships were reduced to burning wreckage. 20 ships escaped, including Drelos. He sat in his command chair, staring at the empty space where his fleet used to be. His hands were shaking. His 4 eyes were wide with shock. Around him, his surviving crew worked in silence. No one spoke. No one could find words for what they had just witnessed. Set course for Valorian space, Drelos finally said. His voice was hollow. Maximum speed. Commander, Keth said carefully, we should warn the Empire. We should tell them what happened here. What do I tell them? That I lost an entire fleet in 9 minutes? That the humans have weapons that make ours look like children's toys? That the warning was true? Yes, Commander. That is exactly what you should tell them. Because if you do not, they will not be ready. And what happened here will happen again. On our worlds. To our people. Drelos wanted to argue, but he could not. He had seen the truth with his own 4 eyes. The humans were not weak. They were not harmless. They were something else entirely. Something terrible. On the surface of New Bizan, Tejo watched the battle through a telescope. He saw the flashes of light in orbit. He saw the Valorian ships explode one after another. He saw the human fleet move through them like wolves through sheep. "It is over," Subin said from behind him. No, Tejo shook his head. It is just beginning. 3 days later, human ships landed on New Bizan. Not warships this time. Transport ships. Medical ships. Supply ships. They brought doctors and food and water and hope. Admiral Yuna came down personally to meet with the survivors. Tejo and Subin were among those who spoke with her. "We are going to rebuild," Yuna told them. "Your colony will rise again. Better than before. We promise you that." "And the Valorians?" Tejo asked. Yuna's eyes went cold. "They will pay. Every one of them. We are sending fleets to their space. Lieutenant Juan is leading the first strike force. By the time we are done, they will wish they had never heard the name human. Is that necessary?" Subin asked softly. "More death? More destruction? Will that bring back the people we lost?" "No," Yuna admitted. "Nothing will bring them back. But this is not about revenge. Not entirely. This is about the future. The galaxy needs to understand that the warning was not a bluff. They need to understand that attacking humans has consequences. Terrible consequences. If we let the Valorians go unpunished, others will try the same thing. Other colonies will burn. Other children will die. So we become what they feared," Tejo said. "We become monsters. We become whatever we need to be to protect our people. That is what humans have always done. We adapt. We survive. We win." Lieutenant Juan was young for a fleet commander. Only 35 years old. But he had trained his whole life for war. Not the pretend wars that humans talked about in public. The real wars. The ones that happened in shadows and secrets. The ones that no one was supposed to know about. His strike force was small by the standards of the defense fleet. Only 50 ships. But 50 ships were more than enough for what he needed to do. Their first target was a Valorian military outpost near the border of human space. It was a supply station. Not very important by itself, but it was a symbol. A place where Valorian soldiers gathered and planned and dreamed of future conquests. Juan's ships came out of hyperspace at dawn. The local sun was just rising over the station's main planet. Beautiful orange light on gray metal buildings. Very peaceful. Very calm. "Hail them," Juan ordered. A Valorian officer appeared on the screen. Young. Nervous. Clearly not expecting visitors. "This is Lieutenant Juan of the Human Defense Fleet. You have 1 minute to evacuate your station. After that, we will destroy everything." "What? You cannot do this." "We are far from any conflict zone. We are not part of the attack on your colony. We are innocent." "Were the children on New Bizan innocent?" The Valorian officer opened his mouth. Closed it. Had no answer. 1 minute, Juan repeated. "Starting now." Some Valorians ran. They got on ships and fled into space. The human fleet let them go. Others stayed. Maybe they thought it was a bluff. Maybe they were too proud to run. Maybe they just could not believe what was happening. When the minute ended, Juan gave the order. The station burned. News of the attack spread across the galaxy in hours. The Galactic Council demanded meetings. Ambassadors from 100 species sent urgent messages to Earth. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted explanations. Everyone wanted to know if they were safe. Earth did not respond. Instead, the attacks continued. Every day, Another Valorian target fell. Military bases, weapons factories, shipyards, communication centers. The human fleets moved through Valorian space like fire through dry grass. And it was not just destruction. It was humiliation. The humans did not hide what they were doing. They broadcast everything. Every attack, every victory, every Valorian defeat. They wanted the galaxy to see. They wanted everyone to watch and understand and remember. On the Valorian homeworld, panic was spreading. Ships that were supposed to protect the Empire were being recalled. Defensive lines were being established. Politicians who had supported Commander Drelos were suddenly claiming they had always opposed the attack on New Bizin. Commander Drelos himself was arrested, charged with crimes against the Empire. Not because he had attacked civilians, not because he had murdered millions, but because he had failed. Because he had woken up something that should have been left sleeping in his cell. Drelos thought about the warning he had laughed at, the warning he had called superstition and cowardice. He understood now. The warning was not about human weapons or human ships or human technology. The warning was about something else, something in the human spirit, something that could sleep for centuries but never truly died. Other species conquered because they wanted power or resources or glory. Humans conquered because they had been hurt. And when humans were hurt, they did not stop until the pain was returned 1,000 times over. That was what the galaxy had feared for 3,000 years. That was what he had. Unleashed and now there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. On New Bizin, reconstruction had begun. Machines cleared rubble. Workers laid foundations. Slowly, painfully, the colony was coming back to life. Tejo worked alongside the construction crews during the day. At night, he sat with Subin and watched the stars. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat in silence. Both of them were trying to process everything that had happened. Everything that was still happening. I heard they destroyed another Valorians. The Valorian homeworld was called Velos Prime. It was a massive planet with purple skies and silver oceans. 12 billion Valorians lived there. The heart of their empire. The source of their power. The center of everything they had built over 10,000 years. Now, it was surrounded. Human ships filled the space around Velos Prime like a dark cloud. 500 warships in perfect formation. Their weapons pointed at the planet below. Their crews waited in silence, patient, ready. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of the final warning, looking at the tactical display. The siege had been in place for 3 weeks. No ships entered or left Valorian space without human permission. No supplies reached the homeworld. No messages escaped the communication blockade. The Valorian government had tried everything. Threats, negotiations, bribes, alliances with other species. Nothing worked. The humans did not care about threats from a defeated enemy. They did not negotiate with those who had murdered their civilians. They could not be bought. And every species in the galaxy knew better than to interfere. Admiral, we are receiving another surrender request from the Valorian Council, an officer reported. What are their terms this time? They are offering to return all captured territory, pay reparations, execute Commander Drelos publicly, restructure their government to prevent future aggression. They say they will agree to anything we demand. Anything? Their exact words, Admiral. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She thought about New Bizin. She thought about the footage she had watched over and over again. Children running through burning streets. Parents trying to shield their families with their bodies. Old people too slow to escape, swallowed by fire. 40 million dead. 40 million people who had done nothing wrong, who had just wanted to live their lives in peace. Tell them our terms remain the same, she said. complete and unconditional surrender, dissolution of the Valorian military, human oversight of their government for the next 100 years, criminal trials for everyone involved in planning the attack on New Bizen. Everyone. They will refuse. They cannot accept terms that harsh without looking weak to their own people. Then their people will learn what weakness really looks like. On the planet below, the Valorian people were starting to understand their situation. The blockade had cut off food imports. Power rationing was in effect. The streets that had once been full of proud citizens were now filled with frightened refugees from the outer colonies. High Counselor Vex stood at the window of his office, looking out at the silver ocean. He was old by Valorian standards. Nearly 200 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had guided his people through wars and disasters and challenges that would have destroyed lesser species. But he had never seen anything like this. "We cannot hold out much longer," his advisor said. "Food supplies will be exhausted within 2 months. The people are already starting to riot. If we do not find a solution soon, there is no solution," Vex interrupted. "Do you not understand that? We are dealing with humans. They do not want our resources. They do not want our technology. They do not want our worlds. They want justice. And they will burn our entire civilization to the ground to get it. Then what do? We pray that they show us more mercy than we showed them." Lieutenant Juan arrived at Velos Prime with a special mission. He was not there to fight. The fighting was already over. He was there to deliver a message. His ship landed at the main spaceport, escorted by guards in full combat gear. The Valorians who saw him coming quickly moved out of the way. They knew who he was. Everyone knew who he was. The human officer who had destroyed more Valorian military assets than any other commander in history. High Counselor Vex met him in the council chambers. The room was large and empty. Once it had been filled with politicians and advisors. Now there was only the old Valorian and the young human, standing face to face. "You wanted to speak with us directly," Vex said. "Here I am. Speak." Juan reached into his uniform and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the table between them. "What is this?" "A data chip. It contains every piece of evidence we have collected about the attack on New Bizen. Every order that was given. Every officer who carried out those orders. Every politician who approved the invasion. Every soldier who killed civilians." Vex looked at the chip but did not touch it. "We know who is responsible," Juan continued. "Not just Commander Drelos. Everyone. The generals who planned the attack. The council members who voted for it. The officers who gave orders to bomb hospitals and schools. The soldiers who shot unarmed refugees. What do you want us to do with this information? We want you to give us those people. All of them. They will face trial in human courts. They will be judged by human law. And they will pay for what they did. You are asking us to hand over hundreds of our own citizens, including members of our government, our military leadership. We are not asking," Juan said quietly. "We are telling you. You have 48 hours to deliver everyone on that list. After that, Admiral Yuno will begin orbital bombardment of your military facilities." Vex's four eyes widened. "That is murder. There are civilians near those facilities, workers, families. There were civilians on New Bizen too. Children, families. That did not stop you. We are not all responsible for what Drelos did. Most of our people knew nothing about the attack until it was over. They are innocent." Juan leaned forward. His voice was cold. "Then give us the guilty ones. Give us the people who made the decision. The people who gave the orders. The people who pulled the triggers. Do that, and your innocent people will be safe. Refuse, and we will find another way to get justice." He turned and walked toward the door. "Lieutenant," Vex called after him. "Do you truly believe this is justice? Or is it just revenge?" Juan stopped. He did not turn around. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me. I am old. I have seen many wars. I have seen what happens when revenge becomes the only goal. It destroys everything. The victor and the defeated. The innocent and the guilty. Everyone loses. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you attacked our colony." "I did not attack your colony. Neither did most of my people. We were told that the humans were a threat, that they had secret weapons, that they would eventually try to conquer us. We believed the lies because we were afraid." "Afraid of what?" "We never threatened you. We never harmed you. We spent 3,000 years being peaceful." "That is exactly what made us afraid," Vex said softly. "A species that could build weapons like the ones you have, but chose not to use them. Chose to be peaceful. Chose to be kind. It was unnatural. It made no sense. We could not understand it. And when something cannot be understood, it becomes frightening." Juan finally turned around. His eyes met the old Valorians. "So you attacked us because we were too peaceful? We attacked you because we were fools. Because we let our fear make us into monsters. Because we listened to people like Drelos instead of the warning that had protected the galaxy for 3,000 years. And now? Now we pay the price. As we should. As we deserve." Vex straightened his old body. "I will give you the names on your list. I will give you anyone you want. Because you are right. What was done to your people was evil, and evil must be answered." Juan stood there for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. 48 hours, High Counselor. Have them ready." On New Bizin, Subin stood in front of a camera. The reconstruction crews had set up a broadcast station in one of the new buildings. It was connected to the Galactic Communication Network. Every species could watch. Every world could listen. She had asked Admiral Yuna for permission to speak, to tell the galaxy what had really happened on New Bizan, to share the truth about the attack and its aftermath. Yuna had agreed, not because she thought it would change anything, but because she understood that the galaxy needed to hear from a survivor. Not a soldier, not a politician, just a person who had lived through the horror and come out the other side. Tejo stood behind the camera, watching his sister. She looked tired, older than her years, but her voice was steady when she began to speak. "My name is Subin. I am a doctor. I was on New Bizin when the Valorians attacked. I watched my world burn. I held dying children in my arms. I saw things that will haunt me for the rest of my life." She paused, took a breath. "I am not here to ask for sympathy. I am not here to demand revenge. I am here to tell you what I learned during the worst days of my life." The camera focused on her face. Her eyes were full of pain, but also something else. Something like hope. "I learned that humans are not the monsters that some species fear. We are not weapons waiting to be unleashed. We are people, just like you. We have families and dreams and fears. We want to live in peace. We want to raise our children in safety. We want to build beautiful things and share them with the universe." But I also learned something else. I learned that when you hurt us, when you take the people we love, when you destroy the things we have built, we change. Something inside us wakes up. Something old and terrible and patient. Something that will not stop until justice is served. This is not a threat. It is a warning. The same warning that has existed for 3,000 years. Leave us alone. Let us be peaceful. Let us be kind. Because if you force us to become something else, you will not like what we become. The Valorians learned this lesson. I hope no one else has to. She looked directly at the camera. We are human. We are capped. The trials lasted 6 months. Every Valorian whose name appeared on the list was brought before a human court. Generals and politicians and soldiers. Officers who had given orders and soldiers who had carried them out. Council members who had voted for the attack and advisors who had helped plan it. Commander Drelos was the last to be tried. He stood before the judges with his head held high. Even now, after everything that had happened, he refused to show fear. He refused to apologize. He refused to admit that he had been wrong. You are charged with crimes against humanity, the chief judge announced. The murder of 40 million civilians. The destruction of a peaceful colony. The violation of every law and custom that governs civilized warfare. How do you plead? Drelos looked at the judges. Human judges. Sitting in a human courtroom. Surrounded by human soldiers. His empire was in ruins. His fleet was destroyed. His name would be remembered as the fool who had awakened the sleeping giant. I did what any strong leader would do, he said. I saw weakness and I exploited it. I saw an opportunity and I took it. That is not a crime. That is nature. The strong survive. The weak fall. That is how the universe works. And how did that work out for you? The judge asked. Drelos had no answer. He was found guilty. Sentenced to life imprisonment on a human prison world. A place where he would have decades to think about what he had done. What he had lost. What his pride had cost his people. When the guards took him away, he did not resist. He did not speak. He just walked slowly into the darkness. And no one ever saw him again. Admiral Una watched the final trial from her ship in orbit. The siege of Velos Prime was over. Human ships still patrolled Valorian space, but the blockade had been lifted. Food and supplies were flowing again. The worst of the crisis had passed, but the war was not really over. It would never really be over. Something had changed in the galaxy. Something fundamental. The balance of power had shifted. The old rules no longer applied. She was in her quarters when the message arrived. It was from the Galactic Council. They wanted to meet, to discuss the future, to talk about what came next. Yuna read the message 3 times. Then she sent a simple reply. I will be there. The Galactic Council met on a neutral station in deep space. Representatives from 200 species gathered in a massive chamber filled with floating platforms and holographic displays. It was the largest gathering in galactic history. Admiral Una arrived alone. No guards, no advisors. Just one human woman in a simple uniform, walking into a room full of aliens who had feared her species for 3,000 years. The council president, a tall being with golden skin and 3 arms, rose to speak. Admiral Una, thank you for coming. We have asked you here to discuss the recent conflict between humanity and the Valorian Empire. Many questions have been raised. Many concerns have been expressed. The galaxy needs answers. Then ask your questions. Very well. The president looked around the chamber. First, we must ask about the warning. The warning that has governed galactic relations with humanity for 3,000 years. Was it true? Were the stories accurate? Una considered her answer carefully. The warning was true. The stories were accurate. Humanity is capable of extreme violence when provoked. We have weapons and ships that surpass anything else in the galaxy. We have the ability to destroy civilizations. This is not a secret anymore. The Valorians learned the truth firsthand. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Fear. Confusion. Some species looked like they wanted to flee. But, Una continued, the warning was also a promise. A promise that we would never use that power unless we were forced to. We spent 3,000 years being peaceful, building, creating, exploring. We wanted to be part of the galactic community. We wanted to share our knowledge and learn from others. We wanted to prove that we were more than our past. And now, after what happened on New Bizon, after the war with the Valorians, now we return to being peaceful. The Valorians have paid for their crimes. Justice has been served. There is no more need for war. How can we trust that? How can any species trust that humanity will not decide to conquer the galaxy? Una smiled. It was a sad smile. A tired smile. You cannot trust us. Not really. Trust is earned, not given. We will have to prove ourselves again. Show the galaxy that we are more than weapons and warships. Show them that the warning is a protection, not a threat. She looked around the chamber. But know this. We will not start conflicts. We will not invade. We will not conquer. As long as the galaxy respects our people and our worlds, we will be the peaceful neighbors we have always been. The warning stands. Leave us alone, and we will leave you alone. Threaten us and face the consequences. That has not changed. That will never change. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, the council president nodded. We accept your terms, Admiral. We accept the warning. And we hope that this is the beginning of a new era. An era of peace and cooperation between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. So do we, Una said. So do we. On New Bizon, the reconstruction was nearly complete. New cities rose from the ashes of the old ones. New gardens bloomed where craters had scarred the earth. New children played in new parks, laughing and running and growing up in a world that had been reborn. Tejo and Subin stood on a hill overlooking the capital. It was different from the city they remembered. Newer, cleaner, more carefully designed. But it was still home. It would always be home. It is beautiful, Subin said. It is. Do you think they will be okay? The children who grew up here? The ones who survived the attack? Tejo thought about the question. He thought about the little girl that Subin had carried through the tunnels. She was 7 years old now. She had a new family. She laughed and played and went to school. But sometimes, late at night, she still had nightmares. She still remembered the fire and the screams. They will carry scars, he said finally. We all will. But scars can heal. Pain can fade. What matters is what we do with the time we have. How we choose to live. What we choose to build. And what will you build? He looked at his sister. She was older now. Stronger. The war had changed her. It had changed everyone. But she was still the same person he had grown up with. The same kind, stubborn, brilliant woman who wanted to heal the world instead of hurt it. I do not know yet, he admitted. But I want to build something good. Something that makes the deaths mean something. Something that honors the people we lost. That is all any of us can do. They stood together in silence, watching the sunset over their rebuilt world far away. On Earth, Admiral Una retired from the fleet. She was tired. So tired. The war had taken everything from her. Her youth. Her peace. Her belief that humanity could escape its past. But she had done her duty. She had protected her people. She had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be threatened. Not to be attacked. Not to be underestimated. She hoped it would be enough. She hoped that no one would ever test the warning again. She hoped that humanity could go back to being farmers and artists and doctors. But if they could not, if another Drelos appeared somewhere in the galaxy, if another species decided to ignore the warning and attack innocent humans, then the fleet would wake up again. The ships would fly again. The war would begin again. And humanity would do what it had always done. Survive. Fight. Win. At any cost. The Galactic Council sent a new warning to every species in known space. It was similar to the old one, but with additions. New details, new evidence, new reasons to be afraid. Never attack the humans. Never threaten their worlds. Never harm their young. If you see a human ship, let it pass. If a human asks for help, give it freely. And if you are foolish enough to make them your enemy, remember the Valorians. Remember what happened to their empire. Remember that the warnings are not lies or superstitions. They are promises. And humans always keep their promises. Every species received the message. Every species remembered that, and for the next 3,000 years, no one tested the warning again. Humanity returned to peace. They built new colonies. They discovered new technologies. They made art and music and stories that spread across the galaxy. They became known not for their weapons, but for their creativity, their kindness, their strange ability to find hope in the darkest situations. But they never forgot what they were capable of. They never destroyed the sleeping fleet. They never erased the memories of the war, because they knew the truth. Peace is not the absence of violence. Peace is a choice that must be made every day. A choice that requires strength and discipline and sacrifice. And if anyone ever tried to take that choice away from them, if anyone ever forced them to become monsters again, then the galaxy would learn the truth all over again. Humanity was peaceful. Humanity was kind. Humanity was everything the warning promised they could be. But they were also something else. They were survivors. And survivors never forget.